It's recording now, so whenever you're ready.
Right. Hello, I'm Brian Candeland and I'm here interviewing Dave Perry about his Creative Corner Cafe. Dave, what are you trying to achieve with the Creative Corner Cafe?
The idea of the cafe is to open up, it's an inclusive arts organisation housed within an art cafe. It's meant to work as a community cafe, hopefully with a cooperative spirit, as a not-for-profit organisation. So any profit made, the money goes back into building something inclusive and creative and something different, and trying to achieve something different. The idea was to do it with no credit and no capital, which is incredibly difficult to do, and for it to build and become self-sustaining as quickly as possible, so that we wouldn't have to rely on credit or capital.
And how well do you think it's gone so far?
I think it's at times gone extraordinarily well, and in some ways it's been a real success. And in other ways it's been a real struggle, because obviously this is why businesses do borrow and use credit and use capital in the first place. It's very difficult to sustain a business over the first period of 18 months without something to fall back on. So at times it's been really difficult, and it's relied a lot on the help and the contributions people have made, and the time that they put in, and the interest and the care they've put into it. I've worked just about 7 days a week, pretty much basically on a voluntary basis. All it's really ever done is feed me. I've eaten here a lot, but I've never taken a penny from it. It's never paid me a penny in wages, not to this day. And I don't know if it ever will, and I don't know if I ever wanted to. I think I just wanted to become established and successful, and to involve more and more people.
And how many people has it involved in terms of local artists?
In terms of local artists, about 15 or 16 local artists who literally live within 3 or 4 streets have brought in fantastic pieces of work, really great artwork of very high quality. I think we have artwork in here that's of a higher standard than most other galleries in the city, or most other art places of any kind in the city. And yeah, there's a lot of talented, creative people living around here, and they don't have an outlet for what they do. They don't have a place to sell. So the idea is to give them that opportunity. We've sold 30 paintings over 18 months, so I think that's a reasonably successful return. I think most galleries would struggle to compete with that. A lot would outsell us, but in a location like this, turning what was almost a derelict building into something like this on a corner in a residential area, in a not a deprived area, but certainly not an affluent one, is reasonably successul. Well, it hasn't been a success in every way, but over the next period of time, I would hope that it does become successful in every respect. Yeah. And the signs are that it's building towards that.
Yeah. Now I gather you've had trouble with your landlord. Do you want to give us a bit of background to what that's about?
Well, initially the root of this problem, with the landlord has been his failure to provide us with a legitimate business address to contact him at. Since a certain time, he's insisted that we post any correspondence we have, or any information we have to give him. He's asked us to shove through a residential flat, which is above the building, it's above the cafe, and the door is on the side. It's addressed as 14A, that's its registered address, and it's registered as a residential address. We've been advised time and time again not to post official business documents or anything of that kind through a residential address door in that way. And despite our insistence for him to supply us with contact details, he refuses constantly to do so. So this has meant that any developments or any rent arrears, which currently stand at £909, which is not an awful lot of money, but it's regrettable that there's any arrears at all. Any repayment plan that we come up with, we can't tell him about. The planning application we've recently made on the building to expand the business and to be able to do a lot more with the place, we haven't been able to inform him we're doing that. He constantly refuses to allow us to do that. Mr. Brendan Layden is his name, and he just refuses to cooperate in any legitimate way at all. So that's really created the problem, whereby he's now acted illegally in placing a repossession order on the premises without giving us any notice that he intended to do anything like that. We haven't had any time to react or respond. He considers our contract null and void. He thinks he can just wipe it out like that. He's constantly sent us letters, again hand-posted with no official sort of evidence of that whatsoever, asking us to pay £500 admin fees and compound daily interest and all kinds of other clearly dodgy ways that look like attempts to extort money out of us. And as a not-for-profit business that's run as a social enterprise, that's obviously impossible to respond to in terms of satisfying him. And as we see those kind of charges as attempts to extort money and not legal, not legitimate at all, then we've always firmly resisted paying things like that. Unfortunately, all of the letters he sent us are locked within this building, and I'm not able to get my hands on them at the moment, unless I peaceably enter the premises and possibly I can remove them, as is my right, as he has no right to withhold anything like that. He has no right to withhold the artwork that's contained within, which is owned directly by the artists themselves. We don't buy it from them. We take a cut if we make a sale, and we take a very low percentage, which is meant to challenge the general gallery model, which generally doesn't work that well for artists, and they don't really get enough out of it. It's very difficult for an artist to make a living, so that's part of the idea, part of the concept, is to give them a bigger, fairer share of their art sales, so that artists are more able to make a living out of their creative practice.
So when was the last time you actually saw your landlord?
Did actually see him last week as he passed by here. I was sat outside here with one of the volunteers who helped out, and I asked him again, face to face, for a legitimate business address, and he just refused, and just walked off. Didn't really have anything to say. That pretty much sums up his manner in the most of the time that we've had any dealings with him, but particularly in the last 6 months or so, since we've started asking him for a legitimate address to write to contact him. He's just generally evasive and untrustworthy.
Does he have any other tenants, and if so, have you been in touch with him?
I haven't contacted any of his other tenants, and I don't know who they are, and they haven't contacted me either, no. But other residents around the area may be aware that this is quite normal for his business practice, and that he owns quite a lot of property, and he generally uses it in whatever way he likes, with no real regard for what the property should be used for, or is supposed to be, or is appropriate for, or anything like that. He's in constant dispute with residents around the neighbourhood, and now he's in dispute with us too.
So what is your next step, do you think?
Our next step is to take legal proceedings against him. In the long term, I know that we haven't broken the law or stepped outside the law in any way, and that he has. So in the long term, I have no worries about how that will turn out. But in the short term, he seems determined to do whatever he likes and just act however he wants. And in the short term, I'm concerned for the artist's work, which I expect him to attempt to remove. concern for all of our legal documents that are locked inside the building that he has no right to withhold from us. And I'm concerned about a lot of the equipment that's been delivered here for the running of the business, which no bailiff would have a right to remove either. But I expect him to pay no regard to the law in that respect. I expect him to try and take all of it out. So in the short term, I have to try and protect the artist's interests and try and well, I have to have the legal documents that rightfully belong to the business, to belong to us.
Yeah. Without that, it would make it difficult for you to.
I presume it will. Well, yes. More specifically, it'll just. Technically, I think it'll just dig him into a deeper and deeper hole if he just keeps taking things that he has no right to. And I'm sure I have enough confidence in the laws of this country and the way things are supposed to work that he should not be able to get away with this, and that as we've acted all along in a legal and appropriate manner, that we should come out of this on the right side.
Right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that was pretty good.